What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Arrow, Season 5, Episode 15, Fighting Fire with Fire. So, I'm gonna have to be the bigger man here. I'm gonna stand up. Well, I can't actually do that. Hang on. Yeah, you won't be able to see me then. I'm gonna have to admit that I got played. I really, truly got played. And it was from Arrow. Of all the shows, I watched so many well-written, cleverly written shows. I watched so many shows that pull clever plot twists that just out of nowhere you just get shocked, and it's just like, holy crap. They got me. And what I mean by that is, if you've been watching my reviews, you know that for the longest time, I was so convinced on one thing. As far as Prometheus went, I had my theories. I went back and forth. At one point, I thought hopefully it was Tommy. Then at another point, I thought, oh, maybe it's Susan. And then last week, we learned that it is in fact a son. The son of the guy that Oliver killed back then. And so I was just like, wait, but we don't know any other guys that could possibly be the son. Then, I was so sure that it was a child. When they said child, I was like, it's going to end up being a daughter, right? And that's going to be Susan. So when they said son, I'm like, but then who could it possibly be? Because the only new man on the show was Adrian. I'm like, no, he's Vigilante. Well, as we saw tonight, it turns out that Adrian is in fact Prometheus, and Vigilante is somebody else. That I guess we'll find out later on in the season. I truly want to go back now and watch some of these some of the episodes where Vigilante and Prometheus were first in, because honestly, I can remember scenes where I'm watching them talk about Vigilante and I'm watching Adrian's reaction to something, and I'm just like, yeah, he's Vigilante. Yeah, he's clearly Vigilante. And even tonight, like, there was a moment where we see Dinah picks up a piece of Vigilante's mask, and Adrian comes over, he's like, here, I'll take that off your hands. Very clearly trying to be like, oh no, she's given the piece to Vigilante. Also, we could be completely shocked when it turns out Adrian is actually Prometheus. It's truly a clever twist. And I don't know how they managed to, well, I know kind of how they managed to do it. They set it up so much that Adrian was Vigilante that I was so sure he wasn't Prometheus. I was positive he wasn't Prometheus because I was positive he was Vigilante. But I was wrong. I was extremely wrong. I was so confident in myself. I was so confident that I had this show figured out. I was like, they're not clever enough to pull a clever plot twist. But yeah, they did. They really did a good job with that. And this episode, that part was amazing. They still do have some problems here and there. I'll address those really fast. One in particular, I still don't really feel this whole Felicity thing going on. They tried to, Diggle did bring up the fact, oh, is it because Billy died? Is that why you're doing this? I can see that, but at the same time, this is Felicity we're talking about. This is the heart of the team. This is the one that never bends her morals, and then just all of a sudden, in this episode, in the past few episodes, she'd be like, yeah, sure, I'm going to turn into a blackmailer. I'm going to turn totally evil and start hurting people to, help my friends. That's not Felicity. I understand that the death of Billy has affected her, but this is a huge change. This is like she's a completely different person now. Like, even at the end, she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to join Helix. Okay, so now she's like 100% on board with this evil group that's trying to hurt people. Even though these people are bad people, it doesn't matter. You're still hurting people in the process. You're still doing terrible things to people. And it's not Felicity. And so the fact that this is going on, I still don't agree with it. I still don't feel like this is right for her character. On top of that, we still have a little bit too much time devoted to Curtis, with his awkward humor, with his relationship with Paul. All of that stuff still got a little too much focus in this episode. It's one thing to have your side characters get some focus. It's another thing for them to take the focus away from the episode. Like Oliver's given this speech at the end about how the team has grown and how they helped him tonight and all of that. And then Curtis cuts him off because he's like, I have a date with Paul. I need to go. I need to go. And then we get there, and of course Paul's serving divorce papers because, whenever one of your characters is so positive, obviously something bad's about to happen. It's just how TV shows work. But it took too much focus away, and then his humor is still not the right tone for this show. It might work in some other shows, but not in this show. Just the constant gibbering after the joke has already been told. Whenever he and who was it? Renee, or was it Renee or was it Diggle? I can't remember who it was now, but he and one of them at the same time. All right, guys, suit up. And he's just like, we were gonna do that at the same time. I'm sorry. I thought that maybe you. We'll talk about that later. But shut up. Sorry. That's the frustration that it brings out in me whenever he just keeps talking and keeps talking. It's not that funny. Some of his jokes do work, but then he messes them up because he won't shut up afterwards. That's not the type of humor that belongs in a show like this. This is not that type of show. That's the stuff that belongs on a show like, I don't know, some sort of sitcom, How I Met Your Mother, Friends. That might be funny in a show like that. But in a superhero show where the tone is a lot more grim than any of the other superhero shows on the same network, that type of humor doesn't fit. He's a character that belongs probably in like Supergirl. That show, that type of humor is showing up all the time. So, yeah, that's my opinion on him. As far as Renee goes, he had a little bit of a moment in this episode where I was just like, maybe he is becoming a better character. Curtis is showing him the little spheres that he created, which, by the way, I will say that is a good development for Curtis's character. The fact that we are seeing he's less of a fighter, he's more technologically based. He's building these little weapons. I'm just like, see, that's what I expect out of him. I don't expect him to go out there and fight hand-to-hand combat. That's not the Curtis I know. The Curtis that I met last season. So the fact that he's building these little devices to go out into the field and use them, I thought that was pretty clever, and they utilized that very well. But Renee has this moment where he's just like, so you're telling me that you need balls to go fight? And he's just like, I'm sorry, that was too harsh, wasn't it? And it's like this self-reflective moment, just for a second, where he's just like, yeah, I'm trying to work on that, trying to work on not being such a dick. So, maybe he's getting better as a character. There was a moment like that a few episodes ago where he was talking to Curtis, and all of a sudden he was just like, maybe all of us on this team are crazy. Maybe we do need crazy people. So I feel like he's starting to become self-aware that he is kind of an asshole, and that we do sort of need to move past that, because honestly, that's not a character that I want on our team. So maybe that'll get better. I will say the jokes between him and Curtis most of the time work, just because it's like a bromance that they formed, where he's kind of the abusive brother, while Curtis is the one that's bigger but kind of wimpier. So that aspect does work at times. But like I said, whenever Curtis says a joke and then keeps talking without shutting up, that's when the joke stops working. And that's about it as far as the side characters go. Onto the main plot, just a few of the things that worked really well. I think Thea's story comes to a rather fitting end, because throughout this entire episode, I'm frustrated with her. After what happened last episode, I was frustrated with her. This whole getting into Oliver's life, screwing up his relationship with Susan, hacking into her thing and getting her fired, all of that stuff. It just didn't seem like Thea. It didn't seem like it was right. And it's like she didn't realize that. It's like she thought she was doing something good. So this episode we see she finally realizes the fact that what she's doing isn't right. And so at the end, even though Oliver wins the case and doesn't get impeached, she says, I need to be out of this. I need to step away from this because I'm hurting people. Last year it was the bloodlust. This year it's like that bloodlust turned into just hurting people and hurting their lives, emotionally, not physically. And so I'm glad that she recognized that. I'm glad that she had the ability to say, okay, that was too much. I was willing to hurt somebody just to get the result that I want. So now's the time to back off. And, I agree with that. And I think that was really a mature thing for Thea to do. So good decision there. I do think Susan, at first I understand her frustration, but I'm glad that after everything got made up, after everything... Not made up, I meant like everything got fixed, that type of made up. After all of that was said and done, she got her job back. She did say, okay, so I understand you didn't have any knowledge of that. I'm glad, because a lot of the time in shows like this, you'll see where she'll still blame Oliver, even though he proclaims his innocence over and over and says, I didn't know anything about this. She'll still blame Oliver with no sort of evidence whatsoever. And even the fact that she got her job back. Most characters would be like, oh, it doesn't matter, you still betrayed my trust, and blah, 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 blah. We see after she gets her job back, she's like, okay, I understand you didn't have anything to do with that, but you worked hard to get my job back, and I appreciate that. So I'm glad that worked out, and even though the relationship hasn't been the best, I'm not a huge relationship person, you guys know this, but at the same time, I do think relationships can be handled well. This one, even though it's tying into the main character and even the doctor, kind of weird, but she's like, oh, I'm prescribing you a girlfriend because he needs somebody to talk to, somebody to sort of get his emotions out. Even though he does need that in his life, I think they didn't really have enough time devoted to setting that up. And I don't want them to take these massive chunks of time out of episodes to set it up, but it was little moments in episodes, but it was only like 2 or 3 instead of like having little moments in 6 episodes where we see the relationship getting built. It was like they interacted 2 or 3 times a little bit in an episode, which is fine. But now all of a sudden they've moved into a relationship really quickly and they're already sleeping together, and then this betrayal, and now they're back together, and it's like, I don't know, it just seemed sort of forced into the show, like, oh, he needs a girlfriend, so, oh, here's a beautiful woman that just happened to show up now. So yeah, I have my pros and cons on it, but I do like the fact that in the end she accepts the fact that he's okay, and that they're okay. And then the final thing is, of course, just I think overall the rewatchability value. Like even in this episode, there's so much rewatchability to it, just because of the fact that now we know Adrian is Prometheus. I really want to go back, like I said, and watch some of those scenes with him, because I mean that scene where he takes the little thing away from Dinah, the mask from Vigilante, has so much more meaning now. Like he takes it from her, and then I think 2 scenes later, Prometheus is fighting Vigilante and then tosses Vigilante off the roof, takes off the mask and shows that it's Adrian. And so now all of a sudden it makes sense. And then the very next scene, he's in the police office and he's talking to whoever Oliver talked to about the whole like Green Arrow thing last episode. He's talking to him, sets the thing down, and Dinah comes and takes it, and he kind of looks back and smiles like that's what he wanted the whole time. It's like he wanted them to not have that piece too soon, or something along those lines. Like he wanted to just buy some time so that Vigilante would now have time to get his whole operation set up to try to kill Oliver. I like the fact that now I can go back and kind of figure out what little clues they were leaving that now take on a whole new meaning now that I know the truth. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But I mean, overall, just the fact that he pretty much got what he wanted. The whole time I'm thinking, okay, so when I thought Adrian was Vigilante, I'm thinking, okay, so why is he taking his case? Why is he willing to work with him, and then afterwards he's just going to try and kill him? Why not just flub his case so epically that he ends up in jail? That's one way to pay for his crimes. Why try to actually help him and then kill him later? Once I find out he's Prometheus, now I know exactly what he's doing. He's the one that leaked the information. He's the one that let everybody know that they were covering something up. And he has all of these different avenues that he's kind of shutting down at every turn. Every single avenue that Oliver might have a chance to get out of it, it's like something happens and now he can't. And it's all leading to one moment where Oliver finally admits that the Green Arrow was a killer. And that's all he wanted the entire time. And I knew as soon as Oliver was saying, well, Adrian came in and said that they needed to throw somebody under the bus. One possibility was him, and then the other one was Billy Malone. Making it seem like Billy was Prometheus, and or he was working from Prometheus or something like that. So, he comes in saying that, and all I can think is he wants Oliver to say he's going to throw Green Arrow under the bus. Sure enough, that's exactly what he does. Now the ACU is coming after the Green Arrow, and so now they can't do their job as well, and it's just playing right into Adrian's trap. Everything that he wanted to happen in this episode happened for him, and he must feel on top of the world right now. Just all of this must be playing out exactly how he wanted it to. He's completely got Oliver's trust. He comes in at the end and he's just like, "You're my friend, Oliver." And of course, we hear the Prometheus music, and I'm just like, "Oliver, can't you hear the Prometheus music playing?" Uh, but it's just going to be a lot of fun now, just to see where this is going, to see kind of how everything played out before this, and now how everything's going to play out after this. And even though I didn't get exactly what I wanted with Tommy being Prometheus, I really was hoping that was going to be the story. It was going to be a lot more interesting that way. I still think what they did here, the writing, just how they cleverly set up everything to play out, it really worked, and it really made things a whole lot more interesting. Just I do have to ask though, who is Vigilante? That's one thing that I think if it was Adrian, it made a lot of sense why, he's a DA, he wants all of the criminals to be brought to justice, and he feels like Green Arrow's not doing the job well enough. But now that we know who Adrian is, really, now I feel like Vigilante is just going to turn out to be some random person that we don't know. And considering that he's kind of been the secondary bad guy to Prometheus, I kind of want a better story for him than just some random guy we don't know. That's why if it was Adrian, it was going to be more interesting because, oh, it's somebody we know and he's behind all of this. But now that it's not Adrian, I don't know. I feel like it's just going to be some random guy that we meet later. It's like, oh, yeah, he's Vigilante. Yeah, that's okay then. But I will say that final fight scene between Wild Dog, Spartan, and I'll call him because he's earned credibility in my opinion with the technology stuff that he brought into the field. Mr. Terrific, okay, he's earned that for me. I'll give it to him. But the three of them are taking on Vigilante, and I will say that is overall it was a pretty badass fight scene. You're just seeing they have come a long way. I will say that, but seeing how they're still not quite there yet. Oliver himself struggles with Vigilante at times, so seeing that they have their own struggles with him, that he's still kind of it's almost like he's a ghost at times. Curtis throws his little thing, and it blows up, and Curtis turns away and he turns back and he's gone. So I am curious to see how he's able to get out of stuff so quickly and how he's able to escape and just disappear. How he gets thrown off a building and he disappears. That's very interesting. So I'm really curious to see what this guy's story is. But now that just adds a little bit more mystery. Now that we know who Adrian is and that he's Prometheus, now I'm curious to see Vigilante's story and what's going to happen there. So who knows? Maybe Vigilante will end up being a bit more of a bad guy than Prometheus. I mean, obviously, Prometheus is still the main villain, but right now it feels like Vigilante is the one that's getting a bit more focus. He's starting to show up again after he showed up for one episode and disappeared for a while. So I don't know where it's going, but I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, the other big thing is seeing that we see the fight between Prometheus and Vigilante, and seeing that Prometheus knows Vigilante is a threat to Oliver's life and Green Arrow's life, and so he shows up to fight Vigilante because he knows Vigilante's trying to kill him, but he wants to have his own fun with him first. He wants to break him down, not just kill him. And so they end up kind of clashing. And so it's going to be interesting to see these two big villains now are not only trying to get Green Arrow, but they're also kind of against each other because they have different ideas of what to do. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But the final cliffhanger is seeing Adrian as he goes up to Susan and is like, "I'll take an interview now." And she's like, "Oh, I got somewhere to be." Closes the door. Prometheus music playing. Like, it's a matter of life and death. I'm just like, oh, okay. Susan's life is in danger. Awesome. So looking forward to see where it's going. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm really excited to see the rest of this season. They've really gripped me with this new twist, this new development in the story. And it makes me feel like they kind of have an idea of what they're doing. It's not just random stuff and poor choices week after week. They've actually got a pretty good story going now, which is a huge improvement from the first half of the season, where it was just kind of all crap. So I really like that. I really like where they're going. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Arrow reviews, and I'll see you at the next one.